Welcome back, everybody, to Samurai Reviews. It's been a hot minute.
Look, Coda's here.
Coda?
Oh, yanks.
Yeah, today we're going to review Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker. I know it's been out for a while. Most everybody have seen it, but we're still going to do this.
We've been busy.
Yeah. Some people went out of town. Other people was sick. I got 2 more jobs.
Coda, is this appropriate when we're going to talk about Bombshell next? You're being total Roger Ailes right now. Anyways, what was that?
Just saying that some of us went out of town. Other of us had a flu. And then we had school start early.
We both had hemorrhoids.
Oh, don't ask.
And we gave each other AIDS. It's been wild.
Anyways, let's get into this. Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker. I guess I'll start. I have 2 ratings for this. One, obviously, for the entertainment value, and one rating critically on how it should be rated. My first rating is the actual rating that I will be giving for this movie is going to be a 5.5. It was just above average for me. Why I say that was because it was just unoriginal. It's been done before. It's basically the same movie as Return of the Jedi in the old trilogy movie.
Even aside from it being like unoriginal in terms of the Star Wars universe, it's unoriginal in terms of just a movie, which I've never seen a Star Wars movie do. I've seen some bad Star Wars movies, but like I've never seen a Star Wars movie be just blatantly unoriginal.
Yeah. There's lots of cliche moments, Ex Machina. It was unoriginal, same as Return of the Jedi. They used the same kind of like writing template and how it kind of plays out. And that's the same thing with A New Hope and The Force Awakens. And it's the same as The Last Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. Same templates. If you don't believe me, go watch both of them. Just back to back, it's the same thing. So, a few non-spoilers for me. Okay, so this movie, Rise of the Skywalker, has a lot of cameos in it. And I mean a lot just because of just nostalgia.
You mean Oh, you mean like old characters?
Yeah. Just them bringing in. And it's just for nostalgia's sake for the movie. And it doesn't really, yeah.
So, well, it's a bit of a spoiler discussion, so without letting anything out, I don't know why you haven't seen it at this point, but there is definitely, like, any of the older characters that come into this movie are kind of played against you. Like, they try and make you have this, like, big emotional moment with these older characters, and then 30 minutes later, they are like, never mind, that whole emotional moment, it didn't happen. And so you're just kind of like, it just kind of pulls you in and out of this entire, like, you're like, oh, wow, that was really bold of them to do. That's really fun. That's really unique.
And then they go back.
And that, like, evoked an emotional reaction out of me. And then, yeah, and then they're like, no, just kidding. And then you're like, okay, so what was the point of that? That's pretty much the point of the whole movie. It's just like, what was the point of that?
Furthermore, for my non-spoilers, this movie did not have a really big moment that, like a touching moment or a big the only big shocking moment, which we'll get into spoilers, you probably know what I'm talking about. There was one maybe shocking moment, the other one, but there was no emotional moment.
I had one emotional moment that got me, but that was just because of a personal thing.
Any emotional thing that they're trying to put onto the audience, it felt forced. So
when it wasn't though, they would immediately be like, nah, I'm just kidding, that didn't happen. Yeah. And you'd be like, what? That was the first time I actually felt something in this movie.
Anyway, it wasn't like anything like Jojo Rabbit where the mom is revealed that she's dead, or she got hung and she dies. It wasn't anything like that of an impact to the movie. So that's why it just wasn't that good, and it just barely holds it to an average movie, above average 5.5. So first act started off really great. I thought they had some really bold scenes in there where they were actually doing a really good job and moving it forward and everything. And I was like, yes, This is one I want to see in Star Wars. And
For the most part, yeah.
for that, the entertainment value for me was a 7.5 for this movie. Because of that, was just the first act. And then the second act comes in.
They're like, remember all those big moments in the first act?
Which they rushed the main villain in the second act. They barely set him up, but that's because like we kind of know him. But like,
so I think, well, apparently he had a lot more setup planned for him, but it got cut. J.J. Abrams did. But so before we get into more of the like vaguer reasons this movie fails, a lot of it is on, and not all of it, because they could still have made a good movie, or they still could have just been like, you know what, we're going to make 2 more. It's not going to be a trilogy anymore because we have way too much to like fix. But The Last Jedi really set this movie back. And I don't think all of this movie's problems are on this movie. I think a lot of it actually rides on the failures of 8.
and that's on you fans, because you didn't want J.J. Abrams to freaking direct the 8th movie.
You guys couldn't handle change, and you guys can't handle lack of change. It's impossible to please you guys sometimes. And I think, that decision to let Rian Johnson kind of take the reins, because you guys complained about Force Awakens, which was generally a good movie, and they were like, okay, we got to do something crazy outside the box, and they got Rian Johnson in, and he wrote something extremely unique. I didn't like it. All right, I'm not defending Last Jedi. It was maybe it probably is my least favorite Star Wars movie, but he came in and they tried to do the thing that you told them to do. They just went overboard with it, and then you got mad at that. And then this movie plays it hella safe, and it's because of that whole sequence of events where they're trying to give you guys what you're asking for, and it's not exactly how you imagined it, and they shouldn't have done that, and that's on them too. It's mostly on them, because you got to give fans something that they're not asking for, because then it becomes bland. You have to throw the fans off a little bit, and this movie, like, they were afraid to do that. They had moments where it was like, I was like, that threw me off, and then they'd be like, nah, that didn't happen, and I'd be like, okay, well, that doesn't throw me off then.
Yeah, and then that goes to my next point, where they had a lot of like, oh, we're going to do this, and then now that, and then they're like, oh, wait, I forgot that we're going to do this other thing, and then there's just a lot going on.
That's what I'm saying, like, clearly J.J. Abrams was like, I need to fix the stuff that I didn't get to talk about in the second movie of this trilogy, and I need to put it all into this third movie, and I'm like, dude, you should have gone and been like, hey, look, we need 2 movies. We need 2 more movies to make up for this, because there's so much I need to do to have like a satisfying conclusion. Yeah. And he tried to fit it in 1 movie, and it's tough. And I don't fully blame him for it, because I understand why he was kind of forced to do that. But also, like, forced. But also, like, I also expect my Star Wars movies to be better than this.
Yeah, and then the third act came, and then you're just like, it's not fun anymore. Everything's just predictable. Like, you just know what's going to happen, and then that's where it loses its momentum and its track and stuff. I'm pretty sure you'll kind of get to this, but the exposition in this movie is a little bit crazy.
It's another thing that was like, it was needed because of the lack of it in the second movie, but like, it's just so blatantly exposition. It's not creative, and it's
by all those like cameos as well, and they just have like a ton of like one-liners, and you're just like, why you even,
who are you? I'm sorry, do I care about
you?
You like, there's one character that they introduce that like I was like, oh man, she could be really cool. She seems like a character I'd really like if I got to know her. But I don't get that opportunity. And so she just comes across as this character where I'm like, what are your what's your like ability, like what's your skill set? What do you bring to the table? Like, what's your emotional status here? Like, but like, I think if I did get to know those questions, I would really enjoy the character. But I was robbed of that because of The Last Freaking Jedi.
Before I turn it over to Brett, I just want to say one positive note in this movie. They did up the action. All the action parts that they actually had in this movie. So I give props to them, and that's why it's above average. It's worth watching. Just a lot of cliche, moments, especially for a Star Wars movie. Coming from the old trilogy that didn't have that. And I
also get a 5.5. Same reason. I thought it was an above average movie. I thought this basically was like a Star Wars version of Hobbs and Shaw, is what I felt like watching. Like it was a bunch of like action that didn't really make sense, but it was fun. Really cool. But then it was also, the universe it was set in is better than the universe of Hobbs and Shaw. So I think that's where it gets a bit of its points value, and the characters are way better and the actors are way better. So that is another good thing about this movie, is I think they cast really well.
Yeah, who doesn't like freaking Rey?
I think, yeah. Okay, that's the thing. Rey. Like, people hate Rey, but like, how many little girls do you see walking around dressed up as Rey? Like, you have to be an endearing character to have that kind of following. There has to be something about you that is somewhat relatable, and even though she was written pretty poorly, she was written overpowered, and that was their idea from the beginning, and she was written from the beginning to be this overpowered person with almost no flaws, and that is stupid and as a terrible decision, because the rest of this character, like just the way she carries herself, is super endearing, and like that's why kids dress up as her. That's why kids want to be here, and I totally get that, and that I respect the hell out of that, and I think Daisy Ridley added a certain layer to this character that a lot of people wouldn't have been able to, and that I think she deserves a lot of credit for that. So just the outright hatred for Rey, I think, is stupid. How she was written, though, I totally understand that, and I'm on board with that. I think she was written very poorly. But and all the other characters, like you got Oscar Isaacs, obviously Adam Driver is really good, and I think he's the best character in this trilogy. Kylo Ren is, and Ben Solo's kind of like journey through the story is the best part of it, but they do not explore it enough, because they try and force in this stuff with Rey's character, where you're like, John Boyega is fantastic too, and that's another miscue. They totally threw away Finn's character development, because in the first movie, Finn was my favorite character after the first movie.
Yeah,
I was so into Finn. I was like, what's up with Finn? He seems like they're leading on to him being a Jedi. Like, I'm into that. That sounds so cool. And they never got around to it. And I don't know if that was they were never going to get around to it, or if it was, again, because of Last Jedi, set them back from doing stuff they wanted to do. But yeah, the point is, the cast is fantastic, and they bring a lot of these characters to life, as poorly written as some of the situations they're put into are. The characters really do, like, they're endearing. They make you like them. And I think that really saves it. As well as cinematography. I really enjoyed some of the scene work. So like, it's like a water planet that they go on, and like just crashing waves, and it's really pretty and really like thrilling. It's really well put together, and that part I was really interested in. While the story wasn't that intriguing to me, what was going on the screen was, if that makes sense. And that's probably the saving grace of this movie, and that's probably what saved it from being the first below average Star Wars movie for me. Actually, Last Jedi might be below average. This was definitely a disappointment for Star Wars fans, and I totally agree with that. But the just outright hatred for this movie is stupid. They screwed themselves, but like the actors didn't screw themselves, the characters didn't screw themselves. I think this movie deserves a little more credit, because they tried. Like, I definitely feel like they tried to get a good story across. They're just dealt a bad hand, and that's not an excuse. That's just a reason not to absolutely outright hate this movie. But yeah, definitely disappointing nonetheless. Like we kind of talked about earlier, definitely the teasing of all the emotional impacts was such a big cop-out, and I think that would have made this movie a lot better if they had just gone for it. In the end, it's fun to watch, and I think everyone should go watch it. I still would recommend this movie, especially for Star Wars fans. But yeah, so 5.5, Samurai review.
Sweet. Star Wars, The Rise of the Skywalker, comes out to a Samurai review of a 5.5. Yeah, thanks for watching the non-spoiler part of Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker. Bye. Thanks for all the support that you guys have, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.